Greetings, everyone, and welcome to I Have the Right to, you fill in the blank. It's not about the reason why you decided not to take the vaccination, but rather than it is your right to refuse the foregoing, which is a fundamental right which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. To think otherwise is certainly arbitrary and capricious. Shall we begin? Great, let's go. Okay, so before we continue, there's a lot of things going on in this world today or whatnot, and my goal is to minimize as much confusion as possible as it relates to the government as well as your rights, okay? So that's all it is. I'm just a transmitting conduit, and I'm just going to connect you to the source so you can go ahead and do the research on your own or conduct your own due diligence, of course, same thing, and you make the decision from that moment forth, okay? So here we are, we're looking at the public statutes at largest here, and our main focus is going to be the Constitution of the United States. That's where we're going to go ahead and drive our attention here. And let's go to page 11. Okay, let's take a look at this piece right here. I'm going to go ahead and read it once it comes back up. Okay, there we go. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Okay, so I'm just laying down the core foundations to let you know that who must abide by said Constitution. Now remember, you have private rights which are secured and protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. Make no mistake about it, okay? So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and remove yourself from all of the distractions, remove yourself from all of the smoke screens, remove yourself from all of your headaches, pains, etc. Remove it. Focus. This is going to be the cornerstone in regards to what is actually happening in today's society, and I need you to focus. Download the information accordingly. Let's continue. Now, after reading the foregoing, it is only important that I make sure that I am connecting the dots from what I've just previously read, and in accordance to Amendment 9, which of course was proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislature of the several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. Now, a lot of people are not going to understand what I just said, but don't worry about that for now. Let's stay focused. Okay, so the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So what that entails is that just because a right was not explicitly stated does not mean that you are not entitled to that right. So that right cannot be denied or disparaged. Okay, you guys? So just because it was not explicitly or expressly stated does not mean you are not entitled to that right. It is very important that you know this, okay? Again, this is Amendment 9. Amendment 9. So let's make our way to another amendment, okay, which is Amendment 14. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Amendment 14. Scrolling up right now. So I'm not going to really read all of it. The only thing you need to be concerned about is right here. Equal protection of the laws. Equal protection of the laws. That is all you need to know. Equal protection of the laws. So remember, this is a build. This is a build from what I showed you previously, okay? Pay close attention. Okay, so I'm going to read this part here. Equal protection refers to the ideal that a governmental body may not deny people equal protection of its governing laws. The governing body state must treat an individual in the same manner as others in similar conditions and circumstances. So it's common sense. And I'm not trying to disrespect anyone of that nature. I'm just saying common sense because I want you to understand it in its most simplistic format. Doesn't matter if you're a US citizen, doesn't matter if you're an alien or non-US citizen, doesn't matter if you're foreign, if you're a foreign national, a diplomat, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. You are entitled to the equal protection of the laws. You are entitled to the equal protection of the laws. Okay? So in other words, let's not start there. Let me stop. Let's continue. I don't want to go ahead and jump the gun on this one. Let's go ahead and continue. Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself. You know, I get a little excited. So let's do it. So let's make our way to 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. Very important. This is very important. So I'm going to read it here. Here we go. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien, okay, or by reason of his color or race, then are prescribed for the punishment of citizens, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year, or both. Okay, I won't read everything else because it speaks about if bodily injuries occurred regarding the foregoing. So I'm going to stop here only because I want to make sure that you understand that this applies to you. This applies to you regarding the situation, regarding the vaccination, regarding the willful subjection, regarding the intimidation or the threat of losing your job, or the threat of if your child is not vaccinated, this is what's going to happen. Okay, I want you all to understand what I've just said moving forward. Or I'm sorry, and for those who's working in the health industry as well. Like I said, I am not mad at anyone. I'm just speaking the facts. I am expressing the facts, and that's all I am doing. And there is nothing wrong with it because I am freely exercising my right to do so. And I'm providing proof as we go along. Let's continue. So now let's go to 18 U.S. Code 241, conspiracy against rights. So here we go. I won't read everything, you guys, but actually I will. Let's just go ahead and do that. Actually, no, I'll just read what actually applies regarding the situation. If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. Okay, I will not read this part here, and I will not read the part which speaks about death. I'm only focusing on the issue at hand, okay? The issue at hand. When you get a chance, please feel free to go ahead and read the remainder of the codes. So let's go to the next one here. 42 U.S. Code 1983, civil action for deprivation of rights. Here we go. Every person who, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress, except that an action brought against a judicial officer for an act or omission taken in such officer's judicial capacity, injunctive relief shall not be granted unless a declaratory decree was violated or declaratory relief was unavailable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this applies to you right here. Right here applies to you. Everything else right here is void, because you have the right to void it. But more importantly, just in case someone wants to say, aha, you can't do that, even though it is my right to do that, I will show you a law which says it can be done. So please stand by. 42 U.S. Code 2008-6, separability, okay? If any provision of this act or the application thereof to any person or circumstances is held invalid, okay? Game over. The remainder of the act and the application of the provision to other persons not similarly situated or to the other circumstances shall not be affected thereby. So in other words, if you are freely exercising your right in stating that that act or the application or the circumstances regarding said matter is invalid, as it will deprive me of my right, which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States, then you can do that. You are entitled to do that, and it is your right. To think otherwise would be arbitrary and capricious. Simple as that. And if any judicial officers or any other public officials tell you otherwise, please make sure that you get that in writing. It is very important that you get it in writing, because that is the smoking gun. That is the proof that you do need. Okay, let's continue. Or, of course, any other persons out there as well, just not judicial officers and public officials, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's continue. Okay, this is another good one. 42 U.S. Code 1986, action for neglect to prevent. So it says it right here. Every person who having knowledge that any of the wrongs conspired to be done and mentioned in section 1985 of this title are about to be committed, and having power to prevent or aid in preventing the commission of the same, neglects or refuses so to do, if such wrongful act be committed, shall be liable to the party injured or his legal representatives for all damages caused by such wrongful act, which such person by reasonable diligence could have prevented. Okay, so I can read I can read the rest. Let me go ahead and read the rest. Wow, let's see. Hold on for a second. Okay, and such damages may be recovered in an action on the case, and any number of persons guilty of such wrongful neglect or refusal may be joined as defendants in the action. And if the death of any party be caused by any such wrongful act and neglect, the legal representatives of the deceased shall have such action, therefore, and may recover not exceeding $5,000 damages therein for the benefit of the widow of the deceased, if there be one, and if there be no widow, then for the benefit of the next of kin of the deceased. But no action under the provision of this section shall be sustained which is not commenced within 1 year after the cause of action has accrued. Pay close attention to that, you guys. Again, your right supersedes colorable law, especially if it deprives you of your private rights, which is supposed to be protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. Pay close attention, everyone. So again, action for neglect to prevent. So if anyone else had the ability, the power to prevent it from actually happening, but failed to do so, they can be held liable. Okay, let's continue. Okay, I'm going to read this one right here, 42 U.S. Code 1985, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. All right, so I'm just going to read the first section, okay? All right, here it goes. If two or more persons in any state or territory conspire to prevent by force, intimidation, or threat any person from accepting or holding any office, trust, or place of confidence under the United States, or from discharging any duties thereof, this is the piece right here. This is the piece right here, from discharging any duties thereof, or to induce by like means any officer of the United States to leave any state, district, or place where his duties as an officer are required to be performed, or to injure him in his person or property on account of his lawful discharge of the duties of his office, or while engaged in the lawful discharge thereof, or to injure his property so as to molest, interrupt, hinder, or impede him in the discharge of his official duties. See, got to pay attention to that, you guys. Got to pay attention to that. It is very important, okay? Got to pay attention to that. So, this is serious right here. This is serious. So, if someone is trying to prevent an official from doing their duties, knowing that the official is trying to discharge their duties faithfully, and they're being prevented by another officer or another person regarding the aforementioned, then we have a situation here, you guys. This applies right here, right here. Conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. It applies. No exceptions. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at 42 U.S. Code 1981, equal rights under the law. This is very, very, and I mean very important, okay? So let's take a look at this right here. So, statement of equal rights. All persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall have the same right in every state and territory to make and enforce contracts, to sue, be parties, give evidence, and to the full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of persons and property as is enjoyed by white citizens, and shall be subject to like punishment, pains, penalties, taxes, licenses, and exactions of every kind, and to no other. Remember this part right here. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. You guys already know why. You have the right to refuse. It is your private right. It is your substantive right, which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. I'm not lying. It is what it is. It is what it is. And again, if they want to go ahead and try to play any games, any other person or any judicial officer or any public official, any other persons, please, the best thing you can do is have them communicate with you via writing. Written communication is the key. I promise you, it is the key. There is no verbal communication. Written communication is the key. I can promise you that, and you can go ahead and tag along. Title 42 U.S. Code 2008-6, which is the separability. Okay, you have the right to freely enjoy utilizing said United States code and or laws, however you want to put it. Just being honest with you. Okay, so here it goes. Make and enforce contracts defined. For the purpose of this section, the term make and enforce contracts includes the making, performance, modification, and termination of contracts and the enjoyment of all benefits, privileges, terms, and conditions of the contractual relationship. I want you all to understand this. Yes, for those who willfully subjected them, who was willfully subjected to the foregoing as far as the vaccination goes, and you were told by the hiring agency, hey, listen, I'm going to need you to do this. If not, you're going to have to leave. Sorry. There's nothing else I can do for you, right? Right? Think about it, everybody. Then you felt intimidated. You felt threatened. You felt coerced. You felt like your back was against the wall. So therefore, you made your way over to the vaccination facility service provider. And then when you got there, they gave you some document to sign which states that you don't hold them liable and you're voluntarily taking this vaccination, which is kind of impossible because you felt like you were being coerced and you were being forced by the hiring agency. But here on the contract, it says what? That you're voluntarily taking it, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know how that's possible. That's crazy. Okay, but going back to this, so all of a sudden you decide to go ahead and take it because you felt like you had no choice. Your back is against the wall, and you took it and you provided proof to the hiring agency. Now, when that actually happened, it dawned on you, and you decided to go ahead and say, "Wait a minute, I remember Title 42, U.S. Code, equal rights under the law." Now, remember, even if this didn't exist, you still had the right to go ahead and modify, terminate a contract, or whatever the case may be. You have the right to enforce the contract. It is what it is. I'm not joking. I am serious. I'm not saying it. The source is saying this. The source is saying this. Okay? So I'm showing you right now. No, let's not talk about anything else. Let's just talk about this vaccination situation. Everything else, leave it alone. Leave it alone. I know some of you guys are blazing 100 miles an hour. Let's just focus on what we came here to talk about today. Thank you. Okay. So here we go. So the rights protected by this section are protected against impairment by non-governmental discrimination and impairment under color of state law. Yeah, that was a whole lot to chew right there, you guys. So, for example, if you've already taken the vaccination, and remember that you take the vaccination, you got a copy of the contract saying that you voluntarily took the vaccination, but you remember you also need written communication from the hiring agency telling you that you have to take it, or else you no longer will be working here. So you need written communication. Do not accept verbal communication. You need written communication, because that is the undebatable evidence that you were told via written communication that this must happen, or else you are going to be laid off, or you are going to be terminated, or your services will no longer be needed. Contractors, same thing, doesn't matter. Boom. Ha. Federal employees, same thing, doesn't matter. Boom. Okay? Okay. Just want to make sure that we have an understanding. Again, I am just a transmitting conduit. I'm just bringing you to the source, okay? So don't attack me. If you have a problem, attack the source. That's what I'm going to say about that. All right, so again, yes, you can go ahead and create your own modification as it pertains to the contract that you've signed with the vaccination facility provider. And then if they refuse, then guess what? They deprive you of your rights under equal rights under the law, which is also equal protection of the law, as well as Amendment 9 for certain circumstances. Well, using Amendment 9, we'll talk about that another video. We're going to leave that alone. Okay. So just want to give you guys heads up. Again, remember, we are doing a build here. We are doing a build. Trust me, go back, watch the video from the beginning up until this point. It will enlighten you, because like I said, we are doing a build. All right, let's continue. Okay, so we're going to make our way back to this documentation right here, the public statutes at large. Again, our main focus is none other than the Constitution of the United States. Let's make our way to page 7. Okay, scroll down here. So this is Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States. Again, Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States. Here it goes. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America, United States of America, United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. So let's make our way to page 8. I'm going to skip all of the that information there. We don't need it at this particular time. So we're still here at section 1. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that is it. That is it. Let's make our way to number 9. Okay, so we are here at section 3, where it says, he shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. Okay? And then most importantly, right here, he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Boom. Okay. So again, like I said, when I watch the video from the beginning up into this build right here, it is very important that we have a concrete understanding of what I am showing you step by step. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's take a look at the definition of President of the United States. This is the Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition here. So the official title of the Chief Executive Officer of the federal government in the United States. Okay, let's go to the next definition. Executive, as distinguished from the legislative and judicial departments, i.e. branches of government, the executive department is that which is charged with the detail of carrying the laws into effect and securing their due observance. So let's go ahead and make our way down to executive department. Executive department, that branch of government charged with carrying out the laws enacted by the legislature. The president is the chief executive officer of the country and the governor is chief executive officer of a state, used to describe that branch of the government in contrast to the other two branches, i.e. legislative and judicial. See Article 2, U.S. Constitution. I've already read that prior to making my way to these definitions here, okay? So I've already read that. So let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so before we continue with the remainder of definitions, I want to go ahead and point out to you that I am going to be reading numerous definitions from this moment forth, but only to ensure that you are not going to be confused, because you do have the right of full disclosure and you want to make sure that you do fall into a particular category as it pertains to one of these definitions. I don't want you to feel like, well, wait a minute, I don't understand. I don't think I fit into any of these classes or classifications. Trust me, you will. By the time I finish reading everything, it will make sense to you. You will be able to point it out accordingly. So I am going to continue, and I'm going to start out with the definition of corporation. An artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state. An association of persons created by statute as a legal entity. The law treats the corporation itself as a person which can sue and be sued. Okay? So again, I am just building the foundation as we speak. So now let's get a little technical from this moment forth. Let's move on to the next definition. So let's take a look at the private and public corporations. So a public corporation is one created by the state for political purposes and to act as an agency in the administration of civil government, generally within a particular territory or subdivision of the state, and usually invested for that purpose, with subordinate and local powers of legislation, such as a county, city, town, or school district. These are also sometimes called political corporations. Private corporations are those founded by and composed of private individuals for private purposes, as distinguished from governmental purposes and having no political or governmental franchises or duties. So the true distinction between public and private corporations is that the former are organized for governmental purposes, the latter not. Okay, so now let's get into the different distinctions regarding a corporation. And like I said again, you will, I guarantee you that you will fit into one of these categories. Let's continue. Business corporation, one formed for the purpose of transacting business in the widest sense of that term, including not only trade and commerce, but manufacturing, mining, banking, insurance, transportation, and practically every form of commercial or industrial activity where the purpose of the organization is pecuniary profit. Okay? So everyone needs to understand this. Please think about what I just said, download the information, and see whether or not you fit into this category. Let's move on to the next definition. Professional corporation. In most states, such may be organized by those rendering personal services to public of a type which requires a license or other legal authorization and which prior to such statutory authorization could not be performed by a corporation. Includes but is not limited to public accountants, certified public accountants, chiropractors, osteopaths, physicians, surgeons, dentists, podiatrists, chiropodists, architects, veterinarians, optometrists, and attorneys at law. Look here. Look at this part right here. Incorporation does not alter professional responsibility or privilege, nor does it insulate principal from malpractice liability. Very important, everybody. That is extremely important. Extremely important. Okay, let's move on to the next definition. Public service corporations. Those whose operations serve the needs of the general public or conduce to the comfort and convenience of an entire community, such as public transportation, gas, water, and electric light companies. The business of such companies is said to be effective with a public interest, and for that reason, they are subject to legislative regulation and control to a greater extent than corporations not of this character. Okay, like I said, I am reading a couple of the definitions of corporations, and if you are hired by any of these agencies, then you know exactly where you fit in regards to these definitions. Okay, so never confuse yourselves. Never go by hearsay. Never go by what anyone else tells you or any other profession tells you regarding the aforementioned, because you are seeing it firsthand. Like I said, it is my job to fully disclose this information as simplistic as possible. Let's move on. Okay, so let's make our way to trade. Okay, contractors, heads up. So trade, an occupation or regular means of livelihood, contractors, and is business one practices or the work in which one engages regularly. One's calling, occupation, gainful employment, means of livelihood. Contractors, heads up. Okay, so let's continue to the next definition. Occupation, that which principally takes up one's time, thought, and energies, especially one's regular business or employment. Also, whatever one follows as the means of making a livelihood. Contractors, I'm talking to you right now. Okay, I gave enough definitions for everyone else. I'm talking to you right now. Particular business, profession, trade, or calling which engages individuals' time and efforts, employment in which one regularly engages, or vocation of his life. Okay. All right. So just want to go ahead and give you a heads up there. Let's continue. And also, you guys, please forgive me. I'm not trying to be annoying by doing the outbursts like what I was saying previously. Contractors, I was not trying to be annoying, just trying to give you heads up and making sure that you are alert. Thank you. Let's continue. Okay, so let's take a look at the word proclamation, okay? Proclamation. So proclamation means the act of publicly proclaiming or publishing a formal declaration, an avowal, a public announcement, giving notice of a governmental act that has been done or is to be done. The act of causing some governmental matters to be published or made generally known. A written or printed document in which are contained such matters issued by proper authority, usually by a high governmental executive, president, governor, mayor, right? Interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and pay attention to this definition, and let's continue to the next definition. Executive powers. Authority vested in executive department of federal or state government to execute laws, The enumerated powers of the president are provided for in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, which I've actually read. So you guys definitely take a look at that and you tell me what do you think, okay? So again, authority vested in executive department of federal or state government to execute laws. The enumerated powers of the president are provided for in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Now let's go. Remember, we said proclamation, and I've gone to the word executive powers. So there is no other definition I should go to next unless it is this executive order. Okay. So let's check out the definition of executive order. An order or regulation issued by the president or some administrative authority under his direction for the purpose of interpreting, implementing, or giving administrative effect to a provision of the Constitution, or of some law, or treaty. To have the effect of law, to have the effect of law, to have the effect of law. Such orders must be published in the Federal Register, okay? Such orders must be published in the Federal Register. To have the effect of law, the effect of law, the effect of law, you guys, think about what I just said, okay? Emphasis, I'm emphasizing. Okay, so again, proclamation, executive powers, and executive order. Like I said, I'm not vindictive. I'm not mad at anyone. I don't have any emotional issues or nothing of that nature. I'm just thinking logical at this particular time. I'm actually logical the majority of the time. So this is just logic to me. Logic. It just makes it's just common sense. It's logic. Okay, let's continue. Proclamation, executive powers, executive order. Okay, so I want you guys to pay attention. We went from proclamation to executive powers to executive order. Okay, so now we're going to look at mandate as well as mandatory. Okay, all right, here goes. So as nouns, the difference between mandate and mandatory is that mandate is an official or authoritative command, an order or injunction, a commission, a judicial precept, while mandatory is a person, organization, or state who receives a mandate, okay? A mandatory, that's what it is, you guys, okay? So as a verb, mandate is to authorize, and as an adjective, mandatory is obligatory, required, or commanded by authority, all right? So again, proclamation, executive powers, executive order, mandate, mandatory. Okay, let's continue. Let's take a look at page 636, Public Laws, Chapter 388, July 30th, 1947, 61 Stat. And it states here, statutes at large, contents, admissibility in evidence. So we're going to make our way down here to this part here. And I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. Okay, so the United States statutes at large shall be legal evidence of laws, concurrent resolutions, treaties, international agreements, other than treaties, proclamations by the president, and proposed or ratified amendments to the Constitution of the United States therein contained. Okay, other than treaties, proclamations by the president. So remember, we revealed that the definition of proclamation, we went over the definition of proclamation, executive powers, executive order, mandate, mandatory, and here we are here to this statutes at large as it pertains to proclamations by the president. Like I said, I'm not mad, nothing's wrong, I'm not emotional, I am just logic, and I am freely exercising my right to provide said information, as we all have the right of full disclosure regarding the aforementioned, okay, in its most simplistic form. So again, you guys, proclamation, executive powers, executive order, mandate, mandatory, and then now you have this statutes at large. Section 112 of Public Laws, Chapter 388, July 30th, 1947. Statutes at large, contents, admissibility, and evidence. I'm sure it's, I have the US Code for it. I'm not going to go to it. I just want to show you it right here. Okay. Okay. So think about what I said again. Proclamation, executive powers. Executive powers, okay? Executive order. And now this right here as it pertains to the statutes at large, contents, admissibility in evidence. Stand by. I am going to read this one more time. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding, the senators and representative before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers both of the United States and of the several states shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Okay, just wanted to emphasize on this here. Stand by. Now we do not, oops, sorry, real quick, hold on everyone. You guys, I'm going to take you back to this screen here. I know I didn't show you the other screen in regards to what I read as it pertains to the laws of the land, but I'm going to take you back to this one real quick here, which is this part, which is Article 1, Clause 8, Section 18, where it says that to make all laws, well, Congress shall make all laws which shall be necessary and proper. That's a necessary and proper clause, everyone, for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So why am I saying that now? Why am I telling you this now? I've already went ahead and gave you a build from the beginning leading up into this point. So I need you to focus in regards to what is transpiring. And again, I will take you back to this piece real quick because I know that it did not show up on the screen, or I'm assuming it didn't for some other reason. And again, this part where it says this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding, the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Okay, so I want you all to understand that I've showed you guys numerous of Title 42s, Title 42, 1983, Title 42, 1981, Title 42, 1985, Title 42, 1986, Title 42, 2000 H-6. I showed you 18 U.S. Code 242 and 18 U.S. Code 241. Remember, all of that falls under that falls under Article 1, Clause 8 in Section 18 of the Constitution. Okay, those are necessary and proper. I'm just giving you an example. Article 1, Clause 8, Section 18, Article 1, Clause 8, Section 18 of the Constitution. Pay close attention. The titles I've mentioned regarding the foregoing falls under Article 1, Clause 8, Section 18. All right? Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's take a look at this scenario here. Okay, so the President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order mandating vaccination on federal employees and contractors, those wishing to do business with the federal government. I see the typo, please disregard. Oh, that's not a typo. Okay, and also requiring public and private corporations, business corporations, public service corporations, and so forth to follow suit. The foregoing corporations notify their workers that they are required to take the vaccination or provide a weekly test regarding the aforementioned. The workers freely exercise their right to refuse the vaccination and or the weekly testing, which is a fundamental right which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. As a result, the foregoing corporations terminated said workers. Consequently, said workers were deprived the right to work and were punished on the account of freely exercising their right to refuse the vaccination and or weekly testing. More importantly, there are no colorable laws, statutes, ordinances, regulation, custom, or usage which would justify the foregoing corporation's actions. Their actions are considered arbitrary, and capricious. So just wanted to lay out this example. In the event that there are no policy and procedures or rules and regulations as it pertains to a corporation who is trying to willfully subject you to taking the vaccination. So this is definitely a good scenario here. You guys, I need you to think about this. And I want you to think about everything that was spoken, that was actually mentioned earlier during this presentation. And I need you to apply it accordingly to your life or to your situation, okay? Think about what I just said here. All right. No, it doesn't stop here, but we have to run through a couple of scenarios so we can get the gist of what's happening, okay? So let's go to the next one. Okay, alternate scenario. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. The foregoing corporations instituted a new regulation, custom, or usage which would willfully subject their workers to the foregoing. The workers freely exercise their right to refuse the vaccination and or the weekly testing, which is a fundamental right which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The foregoing corporations notified their workers to either comply with the foregoing or they will be terminated and or laid off, etc. The foregoing corporations' actions are categorized as deprivations of rights under color of law, and if there are two or more persons within said corporations who are in agreement with said regulations, custom, and usage, it is also categorized as conspiracy against rights. Okay? So also, please do not forget, if someone knew in that office that this was not supposed to happen the way it has happened regarding this alternate scenario, then they have conspired as well. Okay, or conspired to stop them, or it was neglect. What was that again? Title 42, U.S. Code 1986. Title 42, U.S. Code 1986. See, we haven't even touched on the Constitution. See that? That's Amendment 9, and that's also Amendment 14. But I'm just giving you guys different scenarios. I need you to think on your own regarding said matter. Let's continue. Now, this one is an interesting twist. So let's take a look at this alternate scenario. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. The foregoing corporations instituted a new regulation, custom, or usage which would willfully subject their workers to the foregoing. After directly communicating with the foregoing corporations and in fear of being terminated through willful subjection, in fear of being terminated, through willful subjection, the workers agreed to take the vaccination. The workers arrived at a vaccination facility provider, and prior to taking said vaccination, said workers were given an indemnification form, which also stated that the workers are volunteering to take said vaccination and they will not hold said provider, etc., liable. The workers signed said indemnification form, took the vaccination, and provided proof to the foregoing corporations. Time passes by and the workers had some time to dawn on what has transpired. The worker realized that they were intimidated, threatened, and or willfully subjected to the foregoing by said corporations. Said workers decided to create an enforceable contract with the foregoing corporations and a modified enforceable contract with the vaccination facility provider, which is a fundamental right which is secured by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The foregoing corporations and vaccination facility providers refused said contract, consequently depriving said workers of equal rights under law, deprivation of rights under color of law, and conspiracy against rights. Of course, it is two or more persons. So this is deep. This is very strong here, you know. So like I said, just take these scenarios and you just apply it accordingly. Okay, just apply it accordingly. Take your time, no rush, apply it accordingly. Okay, let's continue. And also feel free to pause this video here and just read it again. Take your time. Download what was just said, please, by all means. Download in your mind in regards to what was said. All right, let's continue. Once again, alternate scenario. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. The foregoing corporations instituted a new regulation, custom, or usage, which would willfully subject their workers to the foregoing. The workers freely exercise their right to refuse the vaccination and/or the weekly testing, which is a fundamental right which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The foregoing corporation notified their workers to either comply with the foregoing or they will be terminated and/or laid off, etc. The foregoing corporation's actions are categorized as deprivation of rights under color of law, and if there are two or more persons within said corporations who are in agreement with said regulations, custom, and usage, it is also categorized as conspiracy against rights. Of course, that's also Title 42, 1983, and again, that's also Title 42, 1986. Okay, 18 U.S. Code 241, 18 U.S. Code 242. These are things to think about. Yes, I didn't say anything about the 9th Amendment, which this does apply, as well as the 14th Amendment, equal protection of the laws. See, simple. There's more out there, but I'm just giving you the basics. Just giving you the basics right now. That's all I'm doing, just giving you the basics. So I need you to go ahead and pause this video here, and I need you to download what was just said to you regarding the aforementioned and apply it to your situation, if it fits, of course. Okay, let's move forward. Now, this one is a very interesting alternate scenario. So let me go ahead and read. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. The foregoing corporation instituted a new regulation, custom, or usage, which would willfully subject their workers to the foregoing. The workers freely exercise their right to accept the foregoing upon the condition that said workers will initiate an enforceable contract between said workers and corporations as it pertains to the foregoing, which is a fundamental right which is secured by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The foregoing corporations declined the enforceable contract and insisted that the workers comply with the foregoing. Consequently, the workers have been deprived of equal rights of the law, deprivation of rights under color of law, equal protection of the law, and if two or more conspired, conspiracy against rights under color of law. Like I said, I'm just giving you the minimum, the basics. There are others, laws, and of course amendments, i.e. articles, etc., that you can apply regarding said matter here. So I need you to think about what I just said, download this information mentally, pause the video, and if it does apply to your situation, act accordingly. Okay, let's move forward. Another interesting alternate scenario, and this is for those individuals or groups who doesn't work or who doesn't provide services. Okay, so the President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing individuals or groups freely exercise. Okay, I'm sorry. So proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing individuals or group. Oops, hold on, you guys, stand by. My apologies, I thought it was an actual mistake. No, it was not. It was something that I did. So let's go to continue. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. Individuals or groups freely exercise their right to accept the foregoing upon the condition that said individuals or groups will initiate an enforceable contract between themselves and the vaccination facility providers as it pertains to the foregoing. Which is a fundamental right which is secured by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The vaccination facility providers declined the enforceable contract and insisted that said individuals or groups sign their contract. Consequently, the individuals or groups have been deprived of equal rights under the law, deprivation of rights under color of law, equal protection of the law, and if two or more conspire within their facility regarding the aforementioned conspiracy against right under color of law. Once again, you guys, don't forget about Title 42, 1986. You definitely want to go and take a look at that one, okay? So yeah, this is very interesting here. So like I said, if this scenario applies to you, I need you to pause the video, think about your situation, download this mentally, and yeah. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so this is a very interesting scenario here. Alternate scenario. Once again, the President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. The school board notified the parents that their children are required to take the vaccination or provide a weekly test regarding the aforementioned. The parents freely exercise their right to refuse the vaccination and or the weekly testing, which is a fundamental right which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. As a result, the children were refused. Consequently, said children were deprived the right to a free education and were punished on the account of their parents freely exercising their right to refuse the vaccination on behalf of their children and or the weekly testing. More importantly, there are no colorable laws, statutes, ordinances, regulations, customs, or usage which would justify the foregoing school board's actions. Their actions are considered arbitrary and capricious. So arbitrary, and capricious. Simple as that. Simple as that. Okay, if this situation applies to you, please pause this video, think about what was just said, and think about the build from the beginning of this video up until this point. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this is another interesting one here. Disregard that. Alternate scenario. The President of the United States, Chief Executive Officer of the federal government, proclaimed an executive order regarding the foregoing. School boards instituted a new regulation, custom, or usage, which would willfully subject the parents and their children to the foregoing. The parents freely exercise their right to accept the foregoing upon the condition that said parents will initiate an enforceable contract between them and the school board as it pertains to the foregoing, which is a fundamental right which is secured by the Constitution and laws of the United States. The school board declined the enforceable contract and insisted that the parents comply with the foregoing. Consequently, the parents have been deprived of the equal rights of the law, deprivation of rights on the color of law, equal protection of the law, and if two or more persons conspiracy against rights under color of law. Also, you guys, this is very, very important because this children, man, the children. That's all I got to say. If this situation applies to you, please pause the video, download the verbiages mentally, think about what was said mentally, and see what you can do to actually, deal with this situation. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward from here. Now, I wouldn't feel right if I did not provide you with the remainder of the definition. So let's go. Color of law. The appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. So let's go ahead and see what is the meaning of semblance. Let's check that out real quick. Okay, so semblance, the outward appearance or apparent form of something, especially when the reality is different. So that is the definition of semblance. And see, we're talking about color of law. So let's go back to the other screen real quick. Oh, okay, so color of law. The appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. Okay, so let's go to the other one. Misuse of power possessed by virtue of state law and made possible only because wrongdoer is clothed with authority of state. Okay, so that is considered is action taken under color of state law. Okay, so just want to make sure that we have an understanding of the definition as it pertains to color of law. Remember, think about the bill from the beginning leading up into this point, which also includes the scenarios. The appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. Think about what I am telling you right now. The bill from the beginning up until this point right now. Please pause the video, download this mentally. Think about what is being said to you right now, okay? Again, it is not my information. This is the source. I am the in-between connecting you to the source. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's take a look at the definition of statute. Okay, so we went from color of law, now we're going to statute. Here it is. A formal written enactment of a legislative body, whether federal, state, city, or county, an act of the legislature declaring, commanding, or prohibiting something, a particular law enacted and established by the will of the legislative department of government. The written will of the legislature solemnly expressed according to the forms necessary to constitute it the law of the state. Such may be public or private, declaratory, mandatory, directory, or enabling in nature. Okay, so remember, I showed you color of law, then I've showed you statute. Now let's continue to the next definition. Okay, so let's take a look at the definition of regulation. The act of regulating a rule or order prescribed for management or government. Okay, a regulating principle, a precept. I'm going to say this again. The act of regulating a rule or order prescribed for management or government, prescribed for management or government, a regulating principle, a precept, rule of order prescribed by superior or competent authority relating to action of those under its control. Regulation is rule or order having force of law issued by executive authority of government. Force of law issued by executive authority of government. Okay? Think about what was just said. We went from color of law to statute to regulation. Please pause the video and think about what was just said. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so let's take a look at the word custom. Term generally implies habitual practice or course of action that characteristically is repeated in like circumstances. I'm going to read custom again. Term generally implies habitual practice or course of action that characteristically is repeated in like circumstances. Okay, that is custom. Let's go to custom and usage. A usage or practice of the people which by common adoption and acquiescence and by long and unvarying habit has become compulsory and has acquired the force of a law with respect to the place or subject matter to which it relates. It results from a long series of actions constantly repeated, which have by such repetition and by uninterrupted acquiescence, stand by, let's scroll up, acquired the force of a tacit and common consent. That is powerful. An habitual or customary practice, more or less widespread, which prevails within a geographical or sociological area. Usage is a course of conduct based on a series of actual occurrences. That is powerful, everyone. Custom and usage. So color of law, statute, I'm not going to go to ordinance. We already know what that is. That falls into the same categories with regulation, custom, and usage. Okay, so let's take it a step further to make sure that we have an understanding. Let's go to the definition of practice. Please stand by. The definition of practice is what? Repeated or customary action, habitual performance or succession of acts or similar kind, custom usage, application of science to the wants of men, the exercise of any profession. Boom. So now that I have disclosed these definitions to you, let's take a look at something that we looked at previously, prior to the beginning of this presentation. Now, after reading the foregoing definitions, now you need to actually make your way back to 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights in the color of law. And now, because you know these definitions, it will make a lot of sense to you. Whoever, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishment, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien, etc., etc. You guys already know what this is saying. So I've read the definitions out to you so you can have full disclosure or some kind of common knowledge regarding the foregoing, okay? So there should be no miscommunication, no detachment regarding the aforementioned. None whatsoever, okay? So what am I saying to you? How about this? Instead of me telling you, how about you take the time to go over this video again and actually put two and two together. I'm like I said, I'm just a transmitting conduit connecting you to the source regarding said matter, okay? So basically you have the right to refuse said vaccination. Simple as that. Simple as that. You are freely exercising that right to do so, which is a fundamental right, which is protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. Simple as that. Simple as that. See? Simple as that. Conspiracy against rights. Simple as that. Simple as that. Simple as that, you guys. Okay? Simple as that. Come on, you guys. Think about what I just said. Think about everything I just said, what I'm showing you while I'm going through the screen right now. Take a look at Amendment 9. Like I said, we spoke about this already in the beginning. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Just because it was not explicitly stated does not mean that they can deny you. Hello. Look at equal protection. Equal protection refers to the ideal that a governmental body may not deny people equal protection of its governing laws. Boom. The governing body state must treat an individual in the same manner as others in similar conditions and circumstances. Boom. Think about what was just said, everybody. Download. Think about all of these scenarios that we've gone through. Think about everything that I've said from the beginning of the build. Think about it. There is no miscommunication regarding this presentation. None whatsoever. If anyone is trying to willfully subject you to taking that vaccination, if anyone at all, and you have freely exercised your right to refuse the foregoing, please have them provide you a written communication regarding the aforementioned. Do not take any verbal communication, written communication. Written communication. No exceptions. Written communication. We need the undebatable evidence. We need the evidence, whether it was arbitrary, capricious, or under color of law or any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, and usage. Come on. It's as simple as that. Okay? For those who have taken the shot under coercion, under duress, or under threat or intimidation, because you were willfully subjected, because you were in fear of losing your job. And remember, does it make sense to make your way over to the vaccination facility provider and they provide you with the documentation which states what? Which states what? You have voluntarily. How's that possible when you are being forced by the hiring agency? Come on, man. Does that even make sense? Think about it. And you're not, and then afterwards, everyone is indemnified. Everyone is indemnified. Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful. No enforceable contract, no modification of the enforceable contract. None of that is transpiring because you don't know your rights. But now you do, because you've been provided full disclosure, because it is my right to give you and exercise and freely exercise, the full disclosure right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm freely exercising the right to provide you with said information. Not my information, it's the source. I'm just connecting you to it. Think about it, you guys. And also, your job wants you to, the hiring agency wants you to take it, but you can't initiate your own enforceable contract. So what is this, an adhesion contract or some kind of verbal communication? And what happens if they don't want to provide you with a written communication as it pertains to what they want you to do, according to their policy and procedures, or if it's not a policy procedure, which is arbitrary and capricious. But remember, if a policy, procedure, guidelines, regulation, customer usage, or practice does not exist, then it's arbitrary and capricious, everybody. It's arbitrary and capricious. But if it does exist, it's in the color of law. It's a deprivation of rights in the color of law. It's as simple as that. Now, on the next presentation, we can go in a little deeper in regards to what actions should you take regarding the aforementioned, okay? So hopefully this information was enlightening to you, as it was for me for the past couple of years, to be honest with you. And a lot of people were going through a whole lot because they felt like they were being pressured, man. And that's not a good feeling, everybody. That's definitely not a good feeling to feel like you're being pressured into doing something that you don't want to do, and you're being told this is what's going to happen to you should you fail to not cooperate. One moment, you guys. Okay, you guys. So basically, yeah, like I said earlier, man, you shouldn't have to be forced or pressured into doing something you don't want to do. For those who have done it, great. You've exercised your right to do. In doing so, I'm happy for you. Your right was upheld because you chose to do it without being coerced, without being under any duress, without being willfully subjected. You chose to do it. Congratulations. Awesome. But for those who have freely exercised their right to refuse, which is a fundamental right protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States, that's a situation, that's a problem. And let me tell you something else. All those who are aware of this right within said organization or corporation or whatever you want to call it, and has failed to ensure that your workers or the parents or the children or whatever you want to call it, or the other person's rights are being protected, then guess what? You conspired. You're a part of it too. It's called neglection as well. It's called neglection. Title 42, 1986. Come on. And there's more to it than that simple law itself. It's as simple as that. So you guys, like I said, I hope you really enjoyed this presentation, and feel free to go ahead and pass this on to as many people as possible. And I look forward to you watching the second video, as again, we will be talking about actions you should be taking regarding the foregoing. Until next time, have a great day.